Okay, we are live. All right, so I've got a treat for you today. Last night I went to HLUG, Houston Linux Users Group, and a friend of mine, Evan, helped me out with getting some of the scripts that I use for Docker to deploy things over into Podman and Buildah, which are the open source equivalents to Docker that are developed by Red Hat, I believe. Anyways, so it's got a few lessons here, and I'll do a little bit of sort of live code review here to critique my own code and so forth, just to get you an idea of sort of how things went. So as you can see here, he's got a comment that it's like he would suggest removing this make target, and I actually agree with this totally in that all the code that is relying on these directories, the reason I was doing this is because implicitly it's going to die somewhere in the code if these directories don't exist, right? It's going to need to check an int or something like that. So what I really should do is I should have all this code that relies on these directories existing, do the proper int checking, number one, and then also make sure that these directories actually exist when they need to, so that I don't actually have to think about this. It's a way of reducing operational complexity of deployment. And so next on, we changed up some of the building procedure in that we no longer need a test make target. Number one, because we don't have tests. That's going to be something that I need to work on pretty soon. And then the other half of that is that we have it all taken care of with a makefile.pl now, which also lists all of our dependencies that are Perl dependencies, so that they can be very easily installed just with one cpanm command. You can see here how the make depend target has changed into three different prereqs. And the prereq Perl one is actually very simple: cpanm-in install deps dot, which it will pull from the make file what deps it needs. And the ones that we have installed in an apt-get line, that's actually going to not be reinstalled in the cpanm step, just because if the dependency, the version dependency is satisfied, which they're all zero here, we're basically just taking whatever's new and whatever the OS has. There's no specific version requirement with anything I'm doing here, other than just having a newer Perl version, so that works just great. And then other than that, the JavaScript stuff that we pulled in is now going to be actually in a new target called prereq frontend. So that's all pretty straightforward. And then you can see the makefile.pl that was made. This is all very simple depth finding and so forth, and tells us how to make test and all that. I need to actually add a little bit of metadata here actually to tell it where my tracker is as well, so that whenever I actually do decide to release this to cpan, that'll do the right thing there. And then I may even actually make this a diszilla managed thing, because I really hate mangling makefile.pls manually. So that might be another thing that's coming before too long. And then after that, the Buildah and Podman stuff, now there is an images folder, which has both the instructions here in the readme.md to actually how to do stuff, and the shell script that actually runs Buildah and all that kind of stuff. So we set up the image that it's using is Alpine, which is the sort of promoted image by Docker itself. It existed before Docker, and so it's not exactly a perfect container operating system, but it's a lot smaller than Ubuntu, which is what I was using, and it looks like it works. So we had to deal with a few build issues getting up there because of having both a different C library. It's the old adage that I had whenever I saw growing up. A lot of makefiles had, if you don't use GNU Make, you'll die. That's pretty much the situation. So we installed GCC and a bunch of other stuff to make things work. Anyways, so you can see here it's APK adding all the stuff we need, and then all these various different things. So I believe it has BusyBox, so we couldn't use their version of wget. What we did was we instructed cpanm to actually use curl instead after we installed that. So then after that, it was pretty straightforward to get everything we needed. And then after that we're done, we wanted to reduce the size of the image installed, so we actually got rid of all the stuff we needed to install the deps. and then our application can actually run. And I believe we got an image somewhere south of 100 megs rather than somewhere north of 300 megs. And that's pretty great compared to the Docker stuff. It gave me some ideas on how I can make the Docker images pretty small too, which I'm going to likely continue to want to use on Windows just because it's going to be a great deal simpler actually getting the software on Windows than, say, Podman and Buildah is right now. Right now, it's basically you need to do it all manually with MinGW rather than just having an exe installer that already knows what to do with WSL and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, this does work on Linux fairly straightforwardly, and it's not a problem. And so when we're done, basically it's very much the same as Docker works, except for that instead of making a Docker file, you're basically specifying all the stuff manually whenever you're actually doing all this stuff to command line programs. Build a config does a lot of this configuration you do in a Docker file, and then build a commit actually makes the build of this stuff whenever, well, not really. It's the Buildah unshare is basically what actually does the actual build, and then Podman run is what actually runs the container. So it's pretty cool stuff. So I think I am going to merge it and be happy. Oh, and you guys might enjoy the whole enterprise quality pull request. Last night we talked about this thing called Enterprise FizzBuzz, which if you haven't seen it, it's great. It's a Java version of FizzBuzz that I believe it has something like upwards of 100 source files. So that's very, very enterprise quality. I was quite amused. All right, so let's go to conversation and merge this sucker. This is good stuff. All right. And so the other thing that we talked about that I considered of value last night was this article called What's Wrong with the Docker Latest tag. So this is another one of those things like, we can go over here to the files changed, like this whole, I would highly suggest removing this stuff. It's yet another from the I should know better files, right? In fact, I do know better, right? Because I've actually done this technique in multiple of my other modules, some of them which are even on CPAN. So this is sort of the same thing. The thing that's wrong with the Docker latest tag is a classic problem in deployment with regard to if you're trying to track something upstream that changes out from under you, that's just injecting a fault vector for you. What the guy recommends you do instead is you actually use a git commit SHA based tagging, or you basically just pin anything on production to a specific version, and you test out specifically any kind of actual upgrade whenever you're doing your deployments. And that's exactly the way you want to go. You don't want to just take whatever's newest and just hope it works, cross your fingers, right? Or even not pay attention. That's a good way to get hurt. So I mean, right now I'm not too broken up about it. Like I said, I don't even have tests right now, but that's going to come soon. And with that, that means, I actually really should take deployment seriously, especially now that we've got several sites on it. Deployment is actually becoming the primary problem that I'm having to solve day to day with tCMS. So that's going to be coming soon because of all this. And hopefully I'll be able to get, there's a thing called GitHub Actions that I can actually build these Buildah containers on and get them running through GitHub's CI, which is sort of a competitor to Travis, which is what I've been using for years for my CPAN modules, and get it to actually test and run stuff like playwright tests or something like that against it, So we'll see how that works out, and I will sign off and see you all later.